I was carrying my grocery bag a little slower than usual that morning. At 75, everything I do has become a little slower. Opening jars, getting up from bed, remembering where I left my glasses. But one thing about me has stayed sharp as ever. I notice people. Their expressions, their tones, their footsteps. So when my neighbor, Mr. Lowell, suddenly stepped into the elevator with me, looking as if he wanted to speak but wasn't sure how, I felt it instantly. He cleared his throat, tugged at the sleeves of his sweater, and gave me a polite smile. "Morning, Evelyn." "Morning," I replied, balancing the bag against my hip. We rode in silence for a moment, the elevator humming, the floors blinking past. Then, halfway between the third and fourth floor, he blurted out, "Do you know who comes to your house every Tuesday?" My heart stumbled. The question came out of nowhere, sharp and heavy, as if he had been holding it in for days. I stared at him, confused. "My house. Every Tuesday? What do you mean, dear?" He hesitated, eyes fixed on the elevator doors rather than on me. I might be wrong. Maybe it's nothing. But I've seen someone entering your place. Someone who uses a key." "A key." The grocery bag nearly slipped from my hands. "Who?" I whispered. He sighed, looking uncomfortable. "I just thought you should know. I don't want to cause trouble. Maybe you gave them permission." Then the elevator dinged, doors sliding open, and he stepped out before I could ask another question. I stood there frozen as the doors closed again. My heart thumped in my chest, each beat echoing louder than the last. Someone entering my home? On Tuesdays? While I was away at my volunteer shift at the church pantry. For the rest of the day, his words clung to me like a shadow. At first, I tried convincing myself it was a misunderstanding. After all, old age brings forgetfulness. Maybe I left a window open. Maybe I imagined things out of place. But as I put the groceries away, the doubts began crawling forward from the corners of my memory. The drawer I found open last month. The faint smell of cologne I didn't recognize lingering in my hallway. A half-empty carton of milk when I swore I had just bought it. The missing pair of earrings I assumed I misplaced. I had laughed at myself, blaming age. But now those little things returned like puzzle pieces clicking into place. By evening, my thoughts were a tangled mess. I sat in my living room, watching the daylight fade, and let the silence press against me. My late husband used to sit in that same armchair, reading the paper, always reminding me that the world was not as gentle as I liked to think. "Be careful, Evie," he would say. "People change." I wondered if he would say the same now. I didn't have many people left in my life, just a few neighbors, my church friends, and my son Daniel, though he barely bothered to call anymore. I had always believed no one would ever want to harm me. What would anyone gain from disturbing an old woman's home? Yet something was happening. And whether it was malice or misunderstanding, I needed to know the truth. With trembling fingers, I opened my laptop. I hadn't done much online shopping since my arthritis worsened, but I managed. After a few searches, I ordered a small hidden camera, one recommended for peace of mind and discreet monitoring. It would arrive the next day. As I placed the order, a strange feeling washed over me. Not fear. Not exactly. It was a cold, clear determination I hadn't felt in years. If someone was coming into my home, then I would see them with my own eyes. No matter who it was. No matter how much it hurt. The hidden camera arrived on Monday, tucked neatly inside a small brown box that looked far too harmless for the truth it was about to uncover. I spent the entire afternoon figuring out how to install the tiny thing. My fingers aren't as steady as they used to be, but stubbornness has always been one of my stronger talents. After a few attempts, and some muttered words my late husband would have raised his eyebrow at, I finally placed it behind the stack of books on the mantel, angled perfectly toward the living room and hallway. I barely slept that night. Every creak of the building made me twitch. My mind kept running through possibilities. A burglar, a neighbor, a maintenance man using a master key. I imagined a stranger rifling through my drawers, stepping over the crocheted rug I'd made 20 years ago, touching things that belonged to the life I built with my own 2 hands. But nothing could have prepared me for what I was about to see. Tuesday morning, I left as usual for my volunteer shift at the church pantry. I forced myself to smile at people, to pack boxes of canned soups and rice with the same gentle rhythm I always had. But inside, my heart felt like a tightly wound clock ticking toward something inevitable. When I returned home that afternoon, I didn't bother taking off my coat. I went straight to the laptop, opened the camera app, and clicked on the file marked Tuesday. At first, nothing happened. Just my empty living room. Sunlight coming through the window. The ticking of the small wall clock. Then at 11:06 a.m., the door opened. My breath caught. A man stepped inside, walking confidently. Too confidently to be a stranger. He closed the door behind him, humming as if he knew the place by heart. Then he turned, and the camera captured his face. It was Daniel. My only son. The child I had raised alone when I was barely 30. The boy I had worked double shifts for just to afford his school uniforms. The man who now visited only when he needed something. From money to sympathy to a place to escape his own self-made problems. He walked straight to my kitchen, opened my fridge, and pulled out the leftover chicken casserole I had been saving. He ate straight from the container, standing there like a man in his own home. Not once did he look around nervously. Not once did he act like he had no right to be there. I pressed a hand to my chest. It felt like something inside me was cracking. Then came the phone call. As he leaned on my counter, picking at the food, he said, "Yeah, I'm here. She's out again. Probably feeding the homeless or whatever she does. I told you she's predictable." My hands shook. Predictable. He said it like I was some simple machine, running on the same old settings. Then I heard him laugh. "Don't worry, I'll get the paperwork ready soon. The woman's old. She won't last forever, and when she's gone, the place is mine. It's a good apartment. Worth a lot." My vision blurred. I blinked hard, refusing to let myself miss a second. A few minutes later came the blow that broke me completely. He let a woman inside. A realtor, wearing heels too sharp for my soft carpet. He toured her around as if he were the owner, telling her where he planned to change the lighting, what he wanted to renovate, and how quickly he would be taking possession. Possession of my home, my memories, my entire life. At one point she frowned and asked, "But this is still your mother's place, right?" He waved dismissively. "Oh, she won't put up a fight. She barely knows what day it is. It's practically mine already." The lie cut deeper than any knife. When the video ended, I sat there motionless. I didn't cry at first. I didn't scream. I didn't move. I simply felt myself fold inward, like paper left in the rain. The betrayal seeped through me slowly, painfully, until it reached every corner of my heart. My own son, my blood, sneaking into my home, stealing from me, planning to take everything the moment I died. But after the shock, after the collapse, something else rose inside me. A slow, cold, steady burn. He thought I was predictable. He thought I was weak. He thought I was already fading. But he forgot something. I am old. Not stupid. Not powerless. Not done. And I would make sure he remembered that. Every Tuesday, every moment, every breath he stole from me. He would regret believing I was easy to erase. For the first time in years, I woke up on Wednesday with a different kind of ache. Not from my back or my knees, but from something deeper. Betrayal sits heavily in the bones, heavier than age. But unlike age, betrayal can spark something sharp, something fierce. By the time the sun rose, my tears from the night before had dried. My heartbreak had settled into something colder. I stared at the stillness of my apartment, knowing he had walked through it like a conqueror, claiming what wasn't his. But that was his mistake. He thought I was alone. He thought I was weak. He thought I would do nothing. He had forgotten that I was the woman who survived widowhood at 49, who raised a son on her own, who paid off a mortgage by working through swollen feet and aching hands. I had been underestimated many times, but never for long. The first thing I did was call my lawyer, Mr. Thompson. A polite and practical man, older than my son but much wiser. He had handled my affairs for years. When I told him I wanted to update my will and secure my property, he didn't question it. He gave me an appointment for Friday morning. Next, I spent hours going through my home, documenting everything. The missing jewelry, the drawers disturbed, the small signs of intrusion I had ignored. Then I reviewed the footage again, slowly, carefully, making notes with the precision of a detective. Every word Daniel said. Every drawer he opened. Every lie he told that realtor. By afternoon, I had created a folder labeled just in case. A folder my son would never dream I was capable of assembling. The following day, I ran into Mr. Lowell in the lobby. He greeted me cautiously, but when he saw the calmness in my eyes, he relaxed. "I suppose you saw what I meant," he said softly. "Oh, I did," I replied. "More than you could imagine." He nodded and then hesitated before adding, "Your son, he's been bragging. Said he would be moving in soon." I didn't want to pry, but something felt wrong. "I'm sorry if I overstepped." "You didn't," I told him. "You might have saved me." We exchanged a long, sad smile. In that moment, I realized how little Daniel understood what real loyalty looked like. Mr. Lowell, a man who owed me nothing, warned me out of concern. Meanwhile, my own son had plotted behind my back. That evening, I checked my cameras again, every room, every angle. Then I installed 2 more, one in the hallway and one in the bedroom, tucked discreetly where even Daniel's careless arrogance wouldn't spot them. By the end of the week, I had enough evidence to fill a small box. But revenge, I knew, would require more than evidence. It needed strategy. It needed timing. And it needed a little performance. So I called Daniel. "Sweetheart," I said over the phone, making my voice fragile, wavering. "Could you come over for dinner tomorrow? I've been feeling a bit lonely." He agreed instantly. Too instantly. His greed answered faster than his heart ever had. The next evening he arrived, putting on that forced smile he wore whenever he wanted something. I played my part well. The frail, confused old mother he believed me to be. I let my hands shake. I let my voice quiver. I let him guide me to the table like he was the caring son he claimed to be. But the recording device in my pocket was steady. As the night went on, he talked. That boy always did talk too much when he believed he was in control. He complained about his debts, about his failing job, about how he deserved something for all the years he put up with me. He even slipped and admitted he had pawned my jewelry, just to get through a bad month. Every confession slid neatly into my recorder. By the time he left, hugging me with false tenderness, I felt light, not in spirit, but in certainty. The trap was set. The proof was secured. The act was complete. Now all that remained was the finale. And I, an old woman with tired hands and a newly sharpened heart, was ready to deliver it. Friday morning arrived with a cold, steady rain tapping against my windows, soft enough to sound peaceful, but strong enough to remind me that storms often begin quietly. I dressed slowly, choosing my best wool coat, the one Daniel once said made me look respectable for my age. I brushed my hair, put on my pearl earrings, the ones he hadn't managed to steal, and stood a little taller than usual. Today I would take back everything. Mr. Thompson's office always smelled faintly of old books and coffee. His secretary greeted me warmly, helping me settle into the leather chair across from my lawyer. He looked at me over his spectacles the same way he had the day I wrote my first will 20 years ago. Only this time I wasn't the grieving widow who needed guidance. I was a woman on a mission. "I assume this is urgent, Evelyn," he said gently. "It is," I replied. "And I brought evidence." I slid the flash drive across the desk. He plugged it into his computer, clicked through the files, and watched. I watched him watching, his eyebrows rising as the video captured Daniel entering my home, eating my food, taking my things, bringing in a realtor like he owned the place. Then came the audio recording from our dinner, my son's voice, dripping with resentment and entitlement, admitting to theft in the same tone someone might use to discuss the weather. When the final clip ended, Mr. Thompson sat back, exhaled, and shook his head slowly. "Evelyn, I'm so sorry." I nodded. "I'm not here for sympathy. I'm here for protection. And for justice." He straightened up, almost energized. "We can take immediate action. You have enough evidence to file charges, revoke his access to anything you own, and legally block him from stepping foot in your apartment. We can also revise your will so he cannot touch a single penny." "Good," I said. "I want all of it done." It took an hour to sign everything. Paper after paper. Decision after decision. Each signature felt like stitching a wound closed, tight, secure, and irreversible. When we were done, I made one more request. I want him here today. Now. Call him and tell him it's regarding his inheritance. He'll come. My lawyer hesitated only a moment before nodding. He knew I wasn't acting out of anger. I was acting out of clarity. 20 minutes later, Daniel burst through the office door. He wore that false, charming smile he reserved for moments he believed he was about to gain something. When he saw me sitting there calmly, his smile tightened. "Mom, you didn't tell me you were coming here," he said, settling into the seat beside me as if we were partners in some shared mission. "No," I said. "I didn't." Mr. Thompson folded his hands. "Daniel, we'd like you to watch something." The lights dimmed slightly as he played the footage. I didn't look at the screen. I had seen enough. I watched my son instead. His confidence faltered first. Then confusion. Then realization. His hands began to shake. His breathing quickened. By the time the final audio clip played, his voice mocking me, belittling me, confessing everything, his face had drained of all color. "Mom. This isn't, listen, I can explain." "You already did," I said softly. He reached for my hand, but I pulled it back. For the first time in his life, he looked small. "I raised you," I continued. "I gave you everything I had. And you walked into my home, took from me, planned to take more when I died." My voice didn't tremble. "That ends today." Mr. Thompson handed him the papers. "Your access to your mother's property is revoked. Charges are being filed. And you are no longer part of her will." Daniel's mouth fell open. "You're ruining my life." I looked at him with all the sadness a mother could carry. "No. Iwisparat. You ruined your own the moment you decided my worth ended with what you could steal." He stormed out, slamming the door so hard the walls shook, but he never looked back. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, listening to the quiet hum of the refrigerator, the familiar ticking of the clock. My home felt different, lighter, safer, free from shadows. I didn't celebrate. Revenge isn't sweet because it hurts someone else. Revenge is sweet because it finally stops them from hurting you. For the first time in years, I felt whole. Not because my son was gone from my life, but because I was finally back in control of my own.